will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Jenna Ellis in the morning on American Family Radio.
I love talking about the things of God because of truth and the biblical worldview.
The U.S. Constitution obligates our government to preserve and protect the rights that our founders recognize come from God, our Creator, not our government. I believe that Scripture in the Bible is very clear that God is the one that raised up each of you, and God has allowed us to be brought here to this specific moment in time.
This is Jenna Ellis in the morning.
And this is E.W. Jackson in for Jenna Ellis. Great to be with you again this morning. Always happy to sit in this seat. Thank you all so much for your prayers, for your support, for your contributions. Thank you for listening to American Family Radio. Really appreciate you all, because without you, we couldn't do what we do. So great to be with you. Wow, we got a lot to talk about today. I want to remind you that this is day 63 of the Stand-a-thon, Project 76 Stand-a-thon, 76 days from July 4th to September 17th. Got a big day planned for Constitution Day. And my podcast, of course, will be on. It'll be posted on Constitution Day. So it's going to be dedicated to Constitution Day. And folks, I've come to a conclusion. So you all are going to be among the very first to hear it. I really believe that we ought to make September 17th a federal holiday. You know, I say that because we need unifying events. July 4th is one. Of course, we do have a bunch of leftists who, criticize July 4th. I mean, I remember Kaepernick saying, I'm not celebrating July 4th. I'm not celebrating a nation that oppresses my people. All that nonsense, all that leftist Marxist drivel. But we really do need symbols that unify us. We've got a big controversy over the flag right now. The president is issued an executive order essentially saying that you can't burn the flag. I think that's going to undoubtedly be tested in the courts. I think you've probably heard me say already, I agree with the president. I really believe that you can say anything you want to say about the flag. That's part of your freedom of speech. You can say you hate it. You can say you despise it. You can say it's ugly. You can whatever you want to say. But when you burn the flag, to me, you've gone beyond speech. Because now what you're really doing, the flag represents the country, and what you're really doing is saying, I want to burn America down. And many of them have said so. This conference that Rashida Tlaib spoke at, there were people who came up and said, we've got to destroy America. In fact, we've got to destroy one speaker said, we got to destroy the very idea of America. I mean, right here in our own country, you got people meeting and calling for the destruction of our country. In fact, Congress is thinking about censoring her right now because for her participation in the things that she said. Because it's really clear that these people hate this country, and they're communist, Marxist revolutionaries and radical Islamists, and they hate it. I don't know why they choose to stay here. I don't know why they don't go somewhere else. But I guess the reason is that they think they will ultimately succeed in destroying it. I think when you burn the flag, that's what you're trying to say. You're trying to incite others to destroy America. Remember, a Black Lives Matter representative from New York said during all the George Floyd riots, said, if we don't get what we want, we're going to burn it down. And when you burn the flag, to me, that's what you're saying. It's time to burn America down. And I think that goes beyond speech. And I think we have a right to restrict that. Again, pure speech, say anything you want to say about the flag. I won't like it, but you have a right, in my view, to say it. But when you go to burning it or desecrating it in other ways where you're taking physical action against the flag, to me, you're really taking physical action symbolically against the American people. This is what I'd like to do to the American people. This is what I'd like to do to the country. I'd like to stop the American people. I'd like to destroy this country. I'd like to bring it down. I'd like to burn it down. Who will join with me, they are saying. And I think that that's, it is illegal to incite riot. You can't do that. You can say anything you want to say. You can describe people in the ugliest, most wicked, twisted ways you wish. But when you start saying, it's time for us to burn these stores down, it's time for us to destroy this property, now it's time for us to kill people, whatever. Now you are inciting to riot, and that is illegal. You can be arrested for that. And I think that the flag fits into that category. So there is my view on it, and we'll see what the courts have to say. I've never liked this idea that burning the flag was speech. Never thought it was right. I understand the reasoning behind it because it is a symbolic act. You're not literally burning down the country, but to me, you are literally saying that's what I want to do, and I want others. When you do it publicly, you're saying, and I want others to join with me. And I just believe that's a bridge too far. But at any rate, we are celebrating Constitution Day coming up, and I think we need a symbol like Constitution Day to once again unite us. And it's a beautiful thing that from July 4th to September 17th is 76 days. So it kind of underscores 1776. Once again, September 17th, 76 days from the day our independence was declared on July 4th. I just think that is some beautiful symmetry that only God could have engineered. So we're asking for your help to continue to fight for this wonderful country of ours. You can do that by going to standamerica.us. That's standamerica.us. Or you can call us if you'd prefer to interact with us. And we're asking you to pray for us, to volunteer. By the way, we created a new category called ambassadors. If you would like to be an ambassador for STAN, wherever you are, you can do this as an individual. You want to be a spokesperson for STAN. You want to tell people about it. It doesn't involve any organizing responsibility on your part. Starting a chapter is another thing. We'd love to have you do that. But if you just want to be an ambassador, again, you can sign up at standamerica.us or call us at 757-439-1458. That's 757-439-1458. So pray, volunteer, and give. And, of course, we appreciate any contribution you can make. I've said a $76 contribution is symbolic of the 76 days, but anything you do for us would be greatly appreciated. Now, we're going to be on all day on Constitution Day from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. all day long with various guests on. I'm going to have Bob McEwen and just a variety of people. I won't try to run down the line because what I'm going to do is forget somebody. But it's going to be a very, very exciting day. And Matt Staver, for example, will be on. We're going to have guests from here, I believe. Abe, don't be mad at me if this has not yet been solidified, but I'm pretty sure we've got Abraham Hamilton III, who is going to be a guest on the program. I think that's been confirmed. And we're going to be talking about a variety of things. I mean, we're going to be talking about our Second Amendment rights, which are once again under assault with this latest shooting. All of the gun grabbers are running around talking about, we got to get the guns, we got to get the guns. The mental illness, the confusion of this man who committed this shooting of these and killing of these children in Minneapolis, his homicidal ideation, his confusion, his trying to go from being a man to being a woman. Do you know that? I think it was NBC. Let me double check this. I had the nerve to apologize. Let me make sure I got the right station. I had the nerve to apologize because they referred to him as I think they referred to him as a man. They referred to him as whatever he was not trying to be. Okay, because I really do. I just get exasperated with trying to keep all this stuff straight. No wonder these people are crazy. I mean, just trying to keep this stuff straight in the heads of those of us who are trying to comment on this stuff is hard enough. How in the world does a person who's got this stuff going on the inside of them, how in the world do they keep straight who they are? Well, clearly they don't. But at any rate, they apologize because we misgendered him. Oh my goodness, the man's a murderer. He's killed children, and you're apologizing to him because you misgendered him. Oh. What a terrible thing. I tell you, when people reject God, they really just do go stupid, don't they? I mean, who cares? Well, apparently they do. And they want the world to know that they're not about to misgender this murderer. So at any rate, standamerica.us, or you can call us at 757-439-1558. Okay, wow, we've got a lot of issues to deal with today. I want to start with this death cult. I have referred to the left and the Democrat Party as a death cult. And this obsession that they've had recently with the rumored death of President Trump, it just really speaks to how obsessed these people are with death. And these talk shows, these comedy shows that come on, Kimmel and Colbert and all these people, when they talked about the president being dead, their audiences cheered. Now just stop and think about that for a second. I mean, this is the level of hatred and demonic possession that these people have, that the death of a president of the United States, the rumored death, which of course was just complete nonsense. I mean, President Trump is probably going to outlive us all. I mean, this man is just, he's got more energy and vigor than I think any president I've ever seen in my life. But the man is fine. The president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, is just fine. But, they've got all these rumors going on and they're flying all over the social media that the president is dead because they didn't see him for one day. I mean, all you see is President Trump. They didn't see Biden for weeks. He's hidden in a bunker somewhere in his basement or garage or wherever he was hiding, because the man was, completely out of his gore. I think he didn't even, half the time, didn't know where he was and wasn't coherent. And they were hiding him from people to keep people from knowing that. And they probably injected him and propped him up, put a board in his back or something and stood him up for that debate. But his brain still wasn't working. And all of a sudden, the realization hit everybody that the man's not up to the job. But you didn't hear any rumors about Biden being dead. But these people are really obsessed with darkness and death. And, you would think, wouldn't you, that a person would stop and say, wait a minute, wait. There's something wrong with trying to celebrate President Trump's death. That's just something wrong with that. I may not agree with the man, but I'm not about to muse and laugh and cackle over the possibility that he's dead. I'm not about to do that. You would think, wouldn't you? But you had Tim Waltz, Mr. Macho, Mr. Masculine. We'll talk about a complete fake. But you had him making a joke about the president being dead. You also think a person who has risen to that level, I mean, you're the governor of a state, you would think that a person like that would have some sense of dignity, right? Some sense of decorum, some sense that there's some things I'm simply not going to do. I think it's beneath the office. I don't think it reflects well on my constituents. I don't think it reflects well on my state, my country, to behave that way. But these people have no decorum at all. They have no dignity at all. They have no sense of propriety, of decency, nothing. But that's because Jesus said what the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And so they are obsessed with death. They're obsessed with darkness. They're obsessed with evil. They're obsessed with murder. This is what they traffic in. This is Bishop E.W. Jackson. I'm in for Jenna Ellis today here on American Family Radio. Glad to be with you. More to talk about when we come back in just a few minutes.
Have you ever wanted to take a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee? Raise your hand. Yeah, but in order to do that, you have to actually go to the Sea of Galilee. Hello, this is Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. We are going to Israel and to the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River, where we'll have a baptismal service. We're going to the Dead Sea. We're going to Jerusalem and Bethlehem and Nazareth. A lot of the places you read about in the Bible your whole life, we're going to be seeing on our annual trip of Israel, the Holy Land. If you want more information on our tour, go to wildmangroup.com, WILDMON group.com. We also have information there about the Footsteps of Paul Greece tour. That's back-to-back with the Israel tour, so it's also in March of 2026. We look forward to seeing you on one of our tours.
Hi, I'm Jan Harper. If you are a pastor's wife, come be encouraged and renewed as you share your challenges and stresses unique to pastors and their wives.
The AFA Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat is coming October 28th through the 30th. You're invited to join us at Pickwick Landing State Park in Counce, Tennessee for 3 days of encouragement, renewal, and worship. Once again, Brother Bert Harper, AFA Director of Family and Pastoral Ministries, will host the retreat along with his wife Jan. Our speakers will include J.J. Jasper and Dr. Alex McFarland. If you've attended in the past, we'd love to see you again. And if you've never experienced a fishbowl retreat, we especially invite you to be refreshed and renewed. The per-couple admission price includes lodging, meals, and materials. Visit repairingthefoundations.net to learn more and register. That's repairingthefoundations.net.
The AFA Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat. We'd love to see you there.
Hello, Americans. I'm Todd Starnes. Stand by for news and commentary next. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton wants school kids to recite the Lord's Prayer. He also wants kids to start reading the Bible. The Attorney General releasing a statement this week calling on all schools to set aside time for prayer and the reading of Scripture. He says in Texas classrooms, they want the Word of God open, the Ten Commandments displayed, and prayers lifted up. The Texas legislature passed a bill that allows school boards to adopt policies that would permit voluntary prayer and Bible reading. Paxton says his office will defend any district that faces legal challenges. The Attorney General says he also wants to encourage kids to start their day with the Lord's Prayer as taught by Jesus Christ. In my new book, Star Spangled Blessings, I wrote about President Trump's call for prayer. He said that if we really want to make America great again, Americans need to read their Bibles and go to church. Wise words and a reminder that we are indeed one nation under God. I'm Todd Starnes.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
Well, of course, this is Bishop E.W. Jackson, not Jenna Ellis, but I'm glad to be in for her. So this whole obsession that the left has with President Trump's death, it's bizarre, it's demonic, but it's also dangerous. And so we need to be praying for President Trump and for his family, because when they traffic in this stuff, it always has the ability the potential to trigger some deranged person who takes it upon themselves to think, okay, well, this is really what needs to happen, and I'm going to be the person who goes out there and does it. And unlike what you all hear me do, even when I get a little bit hyperbolic and a little excited and say things, I say, but I'll make clear, but I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about hurting anybody. I'm not talking about shooting anybody or killing anybody. I don't really have to say that for you all, but for the people who monitor us and who want to take the things that we say out of context, it's important to have those disclaimers, so it makes it more difficult for them to lie about what you've actually said. But you all know. But see, with them, they don't make those disclaimers because that's not the way they really feel. They would just as soon, that reaction, people cheering, hearing this lie that the president is dead, cheering tells you that these people would dance on President Trump's grave. And it's sick. So we need to pray for him, because that's sadly what's out there among some in our country. And we just have to keep fighting until these people become so marginalized that they can't even be heard from. So I wanted to put that out there for you all to just contemplate and think about. Now, I talked about Constitution Day because we at our organization are making that a big day. And by the way, September is Celebrate American History Month, so we're also focused a lot on American history this month. But the left continues to say that the president is violating the Constitution. You're hearing that? Yeah, he's trampling the Constitution. In fact, airhead Brendan Johnson, I mean, this man doesn't know his head from a hole in the wall. This guy doesn't even know how to come out of the rain. Sometimes you wonder, how can people who are just this foolish and stupid be elected to these offices? But I guess people not paying attention, and those who are paying attention are the activists and the radicals who want leadership like this. But he's saying that the president is trampling on our Constitution. Well, if this man knew anything about the Constitution, he wouldn't keep saying our democracy. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. But, again, I have never, ever heard a single lefty cite a specific situation and say, this violates the Constitution because the Constitution says, and the president is doing X. Never. It's just propaganda. It's just they're going to throw it out there. He's violating the Constitution. Well, in what way? He's violating the Constitution. I don't know. I don't have any specifics. I don't know what the Constitution says. It's just like Governor Murphy of New Jersey when he was putting out all those COVID edicts and was asked, "Are these things you're doing? Are they consistent with the Constitution?" He paused a second and said, "That's above my pay grade." In other words, the idiot swore an oath to the Constitution and probably hasn't even read it. Wouldn't surprise me because I told you all, I went to Harvard Law School and was never once required to read the Constitution of the United States. Have you all heard me say that before? That is the absolute truth. Now, we were required to read cases about the Constitution and what judges said about the Constitution and law review articles about what others said about the Constitution. But reading the Constitution itself was not a requirement. It was not a requirement for any class, and it was not a requirement for graduation. And it really ought to be, wouldn't you think? If you're going to be a lawyer and you're going to be an advocate in the legal system of the United States of America, wouldn't you think that you'd have read the Constitution, that would be part of your legal education? But that's not what they want. They don't want people to know what the Constitution says. They want people to do what they want them to do. And so the Constitution says whatever they want it to say in order to get you to do what they want you to do. That's the bottom line. But they just continue to beat that drum. Now, you want to talk about violations of the Constitution. We've just found out that California had a fire aid fund. And this fire aid fund was dedicated to helping people fight fires. However, it was designated only for Black and Indigenous people. So in other words, forgive me for putting a fine point on this, if you're a white family with a fire, do the best you can. You probably don't deserve to have it put out anyway because you're enjoying white privilege. I mean, you want to talk about violations of the Constitution? I mean, that's not equal protection under the law. But, they'll justify this kind of craziness all day long. Frankly, folks, that is segregationist. It is racist. It is evil. It is wicked. And it is also unconstitutional. So, the president's engaged in unconstitutional behavior and activity, and they're doing stuff like this? I mean, give me a break. Elise Stefanik has just introduced a bill that requires accreditation organizations that accredit colleges to to discontinue the practice of accrediting schools based upon their DEI practices. In other words, we're going to accredit you not on the basis of the degree to which you educate children in the disciplines that you are required to educate them in or that you have agreed to educate them in. No. We're going to accredit you on the basis of whether you are doing the necessary racial and ethnic and homosexual and transgender and all of that stuff. You know, if you're doing all of that, you may be turning out the biggest ignoramuses that that have ever gotten a college degree, but that's okay because they're going to be representatives of the sort of DEI constituency, and that's really what matters. They can be just as dumb as rocks. That's okay. That doesn't matter. You know, folks, again, not to put too fine a point on this, I taught in 3 colleges. I taught at two. But I taught at Northeast University up in Boston. I taught regulatory law up there, and I taught business and commercial law at Strayer University. 3, because I've taught at Caris, and I teach at Caris College at Andrew Womack Ministries. I teach a course or 2 every year there. And, you know, Caris is an entirely different situation. But these secular schools, folks, the level of writing and skill of college and even graduate students, and it's been years since I've done this now. I mean, my goodness, I think I taught my last course at Strayer about 15 years ago, and I taught at Northeast University before I left Boston, so that would have been 25, 30 years ago. But I was appalled at the lack of writing skill. I mean, in my view, we had college students and sometimes graduate students writing at a 7th, 8th grade level, folks, and I am not exaggerating. I mean, it was shocking to me. Well, because they don't have to be able to write. They don't have to be able to read, for that matter. I mean, you had one young lady saying she's suing her school system because she graduated with honors from school and could not read. She was using technology to get around it, but she could not read. And no teacher discovered the fact that they were lauding a student for her academic ability when the girl couldn't even read. But, you know, what does that matter as long as you're the right color? See, that's unconstitutional. That's a violation of the supreme law of the land, which demands equal protection under the law. And it's really no different than the segregationist system. It's the same thing. It's just got a little bit different patina and covering and packaging, you know, to make everybody pat themselves on the back and feel good about it. Oh, we're doing something good. We're doing something compassionate. And all they're doing is dumbing people down and relegating people to a low level of productivity and ability and income. And that doesn't matter either, as long as they vote the way they want them to vote. You got to vote for us because we're going to take care of you. So please, I'll stand for the president's adherence and respect for the Constitution all day long. And these folks that are criticizing him, I mean, I would not put 2 cents on their integrity or the degree to which they care about the Constitution, because they don't. I mean, these will be the first people to tell you, well, the Constitution's outdated and was written by a bunch of racists. So please, when they start citing the Constitution, you know they're lying. I mean, their messiah, Barack Obama, said that the Constitution is a flawed document because it doesn't give enough positive rights to government. Yeah, right. And if you want to say that was intentional, I mean, again, here's a guy, he also went to Harvard Law School, but then again, folks, you know, I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, Tim Kaine, one of our U.S. senators here in Virginia, he went, and he's the guy who said, America didn't inherit slavery, America invented it. And I say, well, you got to raise his IQ 200 points to get to dumb. Yeah, you got to add 200 points to his IQ to just get him all the way to dumb, because that's just stupid. But Barack Obama, the same thing. You would think he would know better. You would think he would, at the very least, he would say, I don't agree with the founding fathers' view that government should be limited in the way that they limited it. Okay, well, we could have a discussion about that. But it's a flawed document because, like they forgot, like they didn't quite get it. They weren't smart enough to understand this, or they would have given government much, much more power and wouldn't have put all these restrictions in. You want to say, that's what they intended, dum-dum, in order to protect your liberty. No, don't get me wrong. I mean, no, but just because you just think, how can, folks, this is one of the reasons why I said September 17th needs to be a federal holiday, because, we've really got to educate the American people. You saw that this woman, Robin Wright, she's saying she's moving to England because she feels liberated in England. And in England, they're locking people up for things that they say, like this comedian who put out 3 tweets, one of which was a transgender rally in which he said, this is a picture you can smell. I mean, I don't find that particularly funny, but it's intended to be a joke. Nothing calling for violence, nothing. Well, he did say in one that, punch somebody, but they arrested him when he landed in Heathrow Airport and took the man into custody for tweets in England. But Robin Wright is going to England where she could be liberated. Well, you know what? I don't believe in luck, but Robin, in this case, good luck with that. I mean, people experience more freedom and hope and opportunity in this country than anywhere in the world. But if they don't agree with that and they want to go somewhere else, you know what I say? Don't let the doorknob hit you on the way out. Just go, and we're glad to see you go. Because, frankly, I don't see them contributing anything to this country. These people aren't inventing, listen, they're not inventing the cure for cancer. They're just pretenders. They get on screen and whatever, they do their thing, and some of it can be entertaining and, and all of that. And basically they're storytellers. And I'm not knocking that. Every preacher to some extent is a bit of a storyteller. I'm not knocking that. But to act like they're these fonts of wisdom, like America is so lost now. I'm leaving. I'm going to England where I will be liberated. Oh my goodness gracious. You just think, Lord have mercy. Just as dumb as rocks. But we need to reinstill American history in the American people and understand the nobility of our history, the brilliance of the founding fathers' design for this country, the inspired nature of it, because I really believe it's divinely inspired, that we are a providential nation. And they need to get in touch with all of that to fully understand the glories, the blessings of being an American, of enjoying the opportunity this country provides. I tell you, folks, I've said this, and sometimes the consternation of some people when I say, you know what? I know my ancestors came here slaves, but I don't care how they got here. I'm just glad they got here. And I'm serious. I'm just glad they got here. Because little did they know, whoever they were, and I didn't know them, but little did they know, but God knew, that they would have heirs who would experience the blessings of liberty. God knew. God knew that for all of us. You look at the way the Irish were treated when they first came here, the way the Italians were treated when they first came here, the way some Asians were treated when they first. Listen, that is not an American phenomenon. That's a human phenomenon, folks. And it's what fallen human beings do. We look for reasons to divide from others. We're suspicious of others. It's just the human. It's the fallenness of the human heart. It has nothing to do with white people or black people or this, that. That's all just the symptom of the deeper disease, which is sin. And we have the antidote. and his name is Jesus. The blood of Jesus is what cleanses us from all of our sin. This is E.W. Jackson in for Jenna Ellis. I'm going to take your calls when we come back. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Back in a moment.
Exploring Missions with Pastors Bert and Nathan Harper.
When I became a Christian believer, I felt that God was calling me to go to North India as a witness.
We focus on the most vulnerable in the Metro Atlanta area.
Operation Care International is started in Dallas, and now we have partnered with 52 countries.
Exploring Missions explores missions. Find it on the podcast page at afr.net.
Culture is a product of us being placed in a particular location, and it is God's desire that his light bearers would culture or cultivate a particular area.
Join Abraham Hamilton III as he presents the biblical case for cultural engagement. It's a powerful video resource from the American Family Association's Cultural Institute series.
You and I create the culture of our country.
Visit afastore.net.
Fall Share-a-thon is coming October 7th through 9th, and we're collecting AFR listener stories. If we've ever been a help at some time in your life, we'd love to hear from you.
When my late husband was battling stage 4 gallbladder cancer, I would call into shows, and so many of the programs would actually pray with me and for me, and that brought me so much comfort.
Dial 877-876-8893 and leave us a minute or two voicemail. That's 877-876-8893.
I know as a matter of fact that the Lord used AFR, that message about surrendering everything up to God, to help me spiritually grow.
Tell us your AFR story. That number again is 877-876-8893. You might hear yourself on the air during Fall Share-a-thon, October 7th through 9th. And thanks for being a part of American Family Radio.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Claire from Trinity Debt Management. I'm a counselor, and the reason that I love working for Trinity is because I get to help folks with one of the hardest problems a family can face, and that's financial difficulties. In this day and age, everything is going up. You have higher utilities, higher grocery bills, higher fuel, and those credit card interest rates have gone up as well. We can help you with that. We can help you get lower interest rates, lower monthly payments. In just a few minutes, we put together a plan that gets you out of debt and keeps you out of debt. I love my job. It's a great program and a very smart way to find debt relief.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
I'm Claire, a Trinity counselor. Call me and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-788-1813.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
And I'm Bishop E.W. Jackson in for Jenna. The number is 888-589-8840. That's 888-589-8840. I want to come to your calls in a moment. Senator Cruz, who really is a friend of mine and has been a blessing to me over the years, and I think has really always tried to do the right thing. I'm close friends with his father, but he was responding on the Chris Salcedo show to some of the stupid stuff said by Pritzker, because Pritzker is claiming, as is Jasmine Crockett, is claiming that President Trump is out to. He's trying to invade these minority areas, and folks, that's why I am committed to the concept of deracializing America, because I don't care what the people look like in these high crime areas. I care about the law-abiding citizens who are beset by crime, who can't walk the streets without being afraid of them or their children being murdered by some gangs or being given some fentanyl-laced drug by some gang, or some young kid being told, you really want to be important, you need to join us, and putting a gun in his hand and telling him to go out and kill somebody. I care about the law-abiding citizens who don't want to be captive to this insanity, this chaos. And what they look like, the color of their skin, to me adds nothing to the analysis of what needs to be done. President Trump is doing something about it. And all these other people are doing is hiding behind their racist obsession and trying to use that as a way of keeping people in the bondage of these chaotic places. So give me a break. This is a madness that's got to end. And these people who are talking this way don't usually have to deal with it. I mean, Pritzker doesn't have to deal with crime. He doesn't have to face it. Tim Walz doesn't have to face it. These people live in gated communities, in protected places. They're surrounded by guards. But the average person who's experiencing this, no. Their life is not the problem, and the crime that they have to deal with is not the problem. No, the President of the United States, he's the problem. I mean, this stuff is truly sick. And again, they're obsessed with race, but they are themselves the racists. Because if they weren't, they wouldn't care and be always bringing up these are minority areas, these are black areas, blah, 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 blah. They would just be saying, look, the innocent people in these communities, folks, I've got a list of over 650 children who have been murdered in the inner cities of our country since the defund the police movement began. Children, innocent children, not gangbangers, innocent children. You can go to americasforgottenchildren.com, americasforgottenchildren.com, and you can see all their pictures, the dates when they were murdered, where they were murdered. And these Democrats only want to try to point the finger at President Trump as a racist for trying to make the lives of these people safe. It's exasperating. It really is. Wow. Okay, let's get to your calls. We've got Jerry from Texas. Jerry, welcome.
Hey, brother. Hey, Brother Bishop. Good talking to you again. Real quick, I'm going to try and be precise and not take too much time. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Jubilee podcast, but they take one person and they surround them with 20 people against the thinking. So here it is. Patrick Bet Davies just did one for capitalism, and he was surrounded by 20 anti-capitalists. If you have time, watch it. It's very enlightening. But it just goes to show that a lot of the colleges and universities are indoctrinating children or young adults in this thinking that socialism is such a great thing. The point I really want to make is that during this hour-and-a-half long debate, he offered to send 2 of the people he was debating to any socialist country, fully pay for them, and give them a couple of $1,000s to live on, and let them know how it works. But they didn't believe that the countries he listed, China, North Korea, Cuba, North Vietnam, that these were not actual socialist countries. I cannot believe the amount of indoctrination that goes on. Secondly, I do teach at a university in Texas, but the program that I teach in is a more conservative program. And when given the opportunity, the children or the young adults that I teach to, I always point to a creator God. Now, I'm given the latitude of doing that because I don't specifically do that. I just want to let you know that. I love listening to you and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Listen, we're planning to do some man-on-the-street interviews for Constitution Day to find out what some of these college students in the local area know about the Constitution. So that's going to be interesting. That you're going to get that on Constitution Day as well. But I hear you, brother. Look, it is absolutely true. Colleges are not educating people. Most of them are not educating people. Now, there are exceptions, Hillsdale and a few others that we could name, but most of them are indoctrinating our young people rather than educating them. And that little interaction you just talked about is just more proof of that. Let's go to Frank in Mississippi. Frank, welcome.
Hey, brother. How did these local district judges stop Trump from deporting these illegals? And why didn't some good Republican district judges stop Joe Biden from bringing them in here? Wasn't that against the Constitution to bring people over here illegally and not going through the system? Why no one stopped Joe Biden from doing it?
Well, Frank, thank you for the call. You make an excellent point because the Constitution requires that the President of the United States see to it that the laws are faithfully executed. Joe Biden was doing everything in his power to undermine the laws of sovereignty of this nation that prohibit people from entering the United States without proper authorization. He was doing everything in his power to subvert that law and get as many people in here as possible because, once again, they were focused on one thing: power. Power, 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 power. We get them in here, we buy them off, give them phones, give them hotel rooms, give them food, give them transportation, give them home loans. We do everything in our power to entrench them in the United States. And then when somebody tries to get them out, we say, "Oh, but look at, they're living so well. Look at this person's got a home. This person's in school. And so they basically set us up so that when we start saying, well, wait a minute, but they're here illegally, they say, these are residents of our country. Did you hear this one congresswoman said, these are my constituents? No, they're not. They're not your constituents any more than people in France are your constituents. Or people in Africa are your constituents, or people in China are your constituents. These are foreigners who have no right to be here. But, that they're not interested in that because, you're undermining their little power strategy for taking over, having absolute hegemony over this country in the future. Folks, make no mistake about it. That's what they want. They want what they got in California, what they've got in Massachusetts, what they've got in Vermont, what they've got in Oregon, what they've got in Washington State, what they've got in Washington, D.C., except that the president's a little fly in the ointment there because, of course, it's a federal city and Congress has certain authorization under the Constitution over the city of Washington, D.C. They've given them some autonomy, but that's a little bit different situation. But these places where they have gotten their way pretty much, they become one-party communist states. I mean, let's face it. That's really what they become, one-party communist states. And people with any kind of hunger for freedom end up, after a time, leaving, which is why you've got the exits from these states and people moving south, moving into conservative states. And all we can do is hope that they don't bring those weird leftist ideas and try to implement those in these states, because I've been hearing from people in Texas that they really believe Texas is under siege. And they've got to fight tooth and nail to not allow these Californians and others coming into Texas to really shift Texas blue. And I've even heard some people say they think Texas is really more purplish than it is red. Now, of course, and in the cities, they just as in other places, leftists tend to run the cities of Texas. I mean, Austin, as far as I'm concerned, you could put Austin in California or Massachusetts or Vermont or Illinois, and it would be right at home. By the way, let me again, the number is 888-589-8840. Let me just mention, by the way, what happens in these states. I've been back and forth to Illinois and Chicago on several occasions. I end up going there to either speak or for other reasons. And, of course, because of all the violence there, I've been there to try to address that issue. And, folks, when you enter Chicago, unlike many states, even licensed personal protection agents that I might take with me for my own personal safety and the safety of my team are not allowed to bring firearms into Illinois. Now, every two-bit punk criminal in Illinois has a gun. But a licensed, law-abiding, security, personal protection agent, highly educated, highly trained, cannot carry a firearm. But see, that's the cockamamie, weird convoluted logic of these people. And again, I think it's because power. They want to control you and me. It's not crime they want to address. They want to get you and me under control. They want to be able to dictate our lives. Even though you and I are not committing any crimes, that doesn't matter. They want to take our guns. While the criminals you would think they would be, I think it's 168 guns the last time I looked, that the president and the National Guard and that whole team of agents, they've sent it to D.C., 168 illegal firearms that they've taken off the streets from these thugs and these gang members. You would think they would be lauding to say, this is a wonderful thing. We might not like a lot of it, but I'll tell you what, we sure do give the president credit for getting all these guns off the street because we just think there are too many guns on the street. Have you heard that? No, because that's not what they really care about. Because if they really did, they would be singing the president's praises for that. While they're criticizing him about other things, sure, but saying, but that's one good thing that is coming out of this. But no, because they don't really care about that. They care about power over us. All right, let's go back to the calls. We've got Johnny, also from Mississippi. Johnny, welcome.
Hey, what an honor, Bishop. I love you, my Christian brother, and I miss your show.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
My goodness, I know you have a podcast. I'm going to make it real quick. I just, yesterday on Today's Issues with Tim Wildman, and they were talking about a college in New York that was offering a course on how to steal. What in God's name? And how is this implemented? I love you, my brother, and I will get off now and hear your response. Thank you so much for what you
Thank you. Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate the encouraging words too there, brother. Well, look, I'm still very much part of the AFR family and grateful to God to be and grateful to the team here at AFR to be a part of it. So, yeah, my podcast posts every Wednesday, and I'm going to be substituting for various of our talk show hosts whenever they need me. And whenever I can, I'll do it. Look, yeah, I heard about this course where they're actually, and there's an ideology behind it, of course, which is capitalism illegitimately holds property that ought to belong to everybody. So stealing is not really wrong. What you're really doing is an act of social justice. I mean, that's where all this, if you steal up to $950 worth of goods, we won't prosecute you. I don't know where they came up with that number, because as far as I'm concerned, they could have just said, and probably would have liked to have said, just let them take whatever they want. These capitalists don't deserve to keep it anyway. But they probably knew that there are too many constituents who support them and people who, business people who depend upon them, that they might not like that. So they justified it by saying, well, this way we don't clog up the courts with a bunch of petty criminals. So you can steal up to $950, and that's okay. No wonder they don't want the Ten Commandments up, because the Ten Commandments doesn't give you a $950 exemption, does it? The Ten Commandments say, thou shalt not steal, period. Thou shalt not covet, period. It is sin. It is wrong. But, Karl Marx, of course, had a very different view, and they're taking their cue from him, which is, the only reason why people do things like that is because the capitalist system has exploited them and taken from them what they should have, because really it should be from each according to his ability to each according to his need. And as Barack Obama said famously, remember in the driveway discussion he had with the homeowner there, let's spread the wealth around. I tell you what, I don't see him spreading any of his around, do you? Their hypocrisy knows no bounds. Well, look, folks, it's been great to be with you today. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for your support. If you want to help us at Stand, go to standamerica.us. That's standamerica.us. In the meantime, stand up, step up, speak up, and refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we